nobody is doing what we're doing here.
For decades, Impro Theater has been creating completely improvised plays in the styles of the world's most famous playwrights, authors, and genres. We've taught hundreds of students their craft of narrative improvisation and have shared the stage with so many other talented performers. Now, we need your help to keep that stage alive and to discover what comes next.
It's like they're Cirque du Soleil or something.
You can't help yourself. You have to laugh.
I just remember I was just having a blast for an hour.
Improv isn't just about performance and storytelling. It's about engagement and connecting with each other, being a better listener, being a better partner, and building on the ideas of those around you.
The Impro journey started a friend of mine saying, hey, you're into improv. There's going to be a Twilight Zone improvised. Right after that was done, we said, hey, we got to sign up for this.
Impro Theater is committed to growing into a more diverse organization, to become a better version of ourselves, to be a place that creates community through art.
It's just getting started with regards to what it can be.
We want to expand our faculty and build a more inclusive school, and to reach out for new collaborations both here in the LA theater community and with artists around the world.
It's exciting to see that we're trying to be active in getting people from different walks of life.
With your tax-deductible donation, you will help support artists, writers, directors, storytellers, and more. We hope you'll help fund the future of this joyful, unique art form and support Impro Theater and its school and the next generation of narrative improvisers. Every relationship is a story, and we look forward to our story with you.
Impro Theater and the cast and crew of this online performance would like to take this time to honor the indigenous peoples of the ancestral and unceded homelands we each inhabit, and to consider the legacy of colonization and its far-reaching effects.
Hello. Hairball. Hello. Hi. Welcome to Friday night at Impro Jam. It's Friday night at the Impro Jam. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. Thank you, Alan Cumming, for your theme song. Ladies, gentlemen, non-binary friends, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Impro Community Jam. We are here to play some games on Friday the 13th. Ooh. And as you can see, since it's Friday the 13th, we're a little bit spooky. This might be the well from the ring. It might not. If it's a non-public domain image, it's not from the ring. So we are here to play a little Halloween in August to celebrate Friday the 13th. And first, let me introduce myself, and then we'll introduce this great cast. Hope you all enjoyed Roman Shakespeare, by the way. That's pretty spooky, too. Some people know me as Doc. Some people know me as Faryl. My pronouns are she, her. I am wearing a black cloak. It's got a hood. Sometimes I'll wear the hood. Sometimes I won't. I have long salt and pepper, mostly salt, wavy hair. And the background is possibly a picture of the well from the ring. But like I say, if you're going to sue us, then it's just a well in a foggy forest.
You're muted.
Sacre bleu! That was really tragic. I'm sorry I was muted. Hi, my name is Carol Becker. My pronouns are she, her. A description of myself. I am wearing some pretty funky, cool purple, teal, and red glasses. I've got on a black shirt with kind of green and white leaves on it. I've got red lipstick on because I felt the need to dress up. And my background is actually a red theatrical audience with one porcelain white toilet because I really brought the class.
Hello, hello, hello. Can anybody hear me? I'm
Yes.
Madison. Pronouns she and her. And I live in the biggest apartment complex west of the Mississippi, which is scary enough. Imagine I live with 40,000 people in this complex of 10,000 units. I mean, can you imagine the fear of that? And this is my background, but you'll never find me because there's too many of us.
Oh, that was great. I am Matthew. I go by he, him, or his. And I've got short brown hair with some blonde tips at the end, which I get from putting hydrogen peroxide and lime juice on my hair when I ride the hills on my bicycle of Redlands, California. My virtual background is an alleyway kind of going on with the Friday the 13th theme. There.
Hi, I'm Ian Carroll, and the pronouns that can be spoken are not the true pronouns, but he, him, his. And I produced an introductory haiku that's going to describe myself and the environment. He's in an oak room. Hey, that's a plush Socrates. Long hair, maybe cute.
Hi, my name is Jenna Allen. I am she, her. You may refer to me as that. I have about as much hair as cousin It and about the same color. Lots of it. And I am in front of a place that I wish is my house, but it is a haunted house and it is in black and white, which is fun.
Hi, I'm Amy, and my pronouns are she and hers. And I'm a Caucasian female, long, reddish, sort of brown hair. And I'm standing in front of a background that is like fake brick wall screams 90s comedy club where many have died on stage.
Ooh, having a set that doesn't go over is scary, boys and girls. Let me tell you, that is scary. Thank you. Welcome, cast. So we are going to get to it. Our first game is called Yay Boo. Now, some people may know the game of Yay Boo is one where two improvisers will come up and they will tell a story. By the way, visually speaking, I've pulled my black hood a bit up so that I look even scarier, more like a wicked witch. Although witches don't have to be wicked. We know that from Into the Woods.
Out of
We
the
know that
book.
in general. So Yay Boo, two people are telling a story. They alternate sentences in the story, telling what's going on. We want to get for this story, I'm going to review my list, our suggestion for this story from you, our faithful audience, ordinary household objects. Ordinary household objects. So our improvisers will be telling stories about these ordinary household objects. But you'll notice something interesting. There'll be alternating sentences. And the first person will tell kind of a nice story, kind of neutral, and one that would make us all say, yay, at the end of that sentence. But the other person will somehow turn it into something that's spooky and scary and make us all want to say, boo, at the end of that sentence. We will keep going until I call someone out, either because it wasn't clearly neutral or spooky, because the time had come for me to put someone out, because that's what people in black cauldron cloaks do, or because I feel like it randomly. And we will get all our improvisers sooner or later playing this fabulous game of Yay Boo. So Jennifer, who is our terrific moderator, can you, first of all, hello, Jennifer.
Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hello.
Hello, Jen.
Have some of our fine audience members helped us out with ideas of ordinary household objects?
Yes, they have started to. Would you like the first one?
I would like the first one. Thank you so much.
Vacuum cleaner.
Vacuum cleaner. Okay. Now the two improvisers who are going to start this, please stay on screen. Carol and Matt. Matt, I'd like you to take the yay. Carol, you're going to take the boo. Tell us a story inspired by a vacuum cleaner. Begin.
David went to shop for a new vacuum cleaner to please his fiancée, Deborah.
And in spite of David's really optimistic love for Deborah, his cat Ferdinand got sucked up in his old vacuum cleaner.
Ooh.
In utter despair, David broke down crying and was afraid Deborah would see him in his weakest moment.
Matt, I'm sorry, my friend. I'm gonna call you on that because didn't quite bring us all the way back to the neutral and happier tale. But thank you. So now let's get up here. Ian is the next person I see on my screen. Let's get up here, Ian. Carol, you will take the yay. Ian, you will take the boo. And Jen, do we have a new household object for them to tell a story about?
Yes, we do. We have the household object, a blender.
A blender. That is very household and very ordinary indeed. And begin.
Peg had received the KitchenAid 5,000 blender that was on her wedding registry, and it cost over $300.
Yay! Boy, that's expensive. Yay!
And that blender came with a number of features. One was a new hybrid AI, which began to
Speak to her like this. Hello, how can I blend for you today?
Egg took a big gulp. but decided that she was going to work with the AI to make her favorite soup, tomato, and a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yay!
Then the AI got into her bank account and started buying other blenders to network with itself.
Egg started feeling very overcome and scared, so she called her hunky boyfriend, Horatio, to find out what he could do to help come to her aid.
Yay! But I'm gonna call it, because even though it's good to have a hunky boyfriend, yeah, you don't need a hunky boyfriend to get you out of trouble.
No, and I knew it right after I said it.
You know, right? You know. So
feminism.
so thank you, Carol. And let's bring our next improviser up here on my screen. The next person I see up is Madison. Come on up here, Madison. Madison, you will be taking the boo. And Ian, you will be leading us off with the yay. Jen, what is our next ordinary household object?
How about a waste basket, or sometimes known as a trash can?
Ah, a wastebasket or trash can. Excellent. Let's get it going.
Paul was done with the best sandwich he had had in weeks, and he took the wrappings and happily threw them into the wastebasket.
Yay!
Paul was a pretty environmentally conscious dude. The only thing is, what he didn't realize was that the wastebasket led to hell.
Luckily, Paul always wanted to visit hell and was planning a vacation anyway.
Yay! Well, when he got to hell, he saw the destruction of the entire world in front of his eyes, and he was beaten with baggy ties that were wasted in the ocean.
Boo!
He tried to make a small raft out of those baggy ties and float himself out of hell.
Yay! Except all he did was create more waste.
So, Paul drowned himself.
You know, it is a way out of the situation, but I think I'm going to call it, Ian. Thank you. Thank you. Very fair. Let's see, next person up. I see Jenna. Jenna, come on up here. So now Madison, who was very spooky before, you're going to take the yay. Jenna, you're going to have the boo. And what ordinary household object can I offer these two fine people?
How about a can of insect repellent?
A can of insect repellent. I have that on my Target shopping list. Target, a place that should give me a product placement money. So let's begin. Madison, get us started.
So Kelly had this horrible fear of insects, and she decided after 2 years of therapy that she was finally going to confront her fears and buy insect repellent.
Yay!
Unfortunately, as she stood in the woods spraying this insect repellent at the bugs, it made all of them grow into giant blood-sucking creatures that were intent upon murdering her.
Ooh.
But Kelly had heard somewhere that if you name your fears, they will become less scary. So she started assigning all of them names.
Hey!
Unfortunately, they hated the names that she gave them, and they snuck closer to her in her moments of naming things, and they ate her, and she stood inside of a giant bee's belly.
How dare you misgender me? Your names.
In the belly.
This was definitely a problem. She didn't expect to confront her fears in this way, but she realized she was still alive. It was very strange. And then she started tickling the inside of the insect.
The insect, whom she had named Bob, giggled and giggled and giggled, but the giggle became creepier and creepier. Until she knew what was happening. The insect was delighted because she was slowly being digested by the insect. All of her arms and legs were gone.
Jenna, I mean, that's pretty spooky for her, but I have to say, I'm kind of circle of lifing it here. You eat, you digest. That's how it works. So I'm gonna call you here, Jen. Sorry, dear. Let's continue with Madison and get Amy up here. All right. So, Amy, since you are the final player up tonight, I'm going to let you choose. Do you prefer yay or boo?
I'll go with boo.
Ooh, okay. Madison, you're going to give us yay. Jen, one last household item.
Yes, a family scrapbook.
A family scrapbook. I'm terrified already. All right, kick us off, Madison.
In an act of perpetual happiness of overcoming her family dysfunction, Louise decided to put together a family scrapbook, and she stared at it every night before bed.
Yay!
Oh, yes. Louise stared at it, marking a red X over each member one by one.
Ooh.
You know, Louise had always wanted to star in her own show. So she realized that after they were all X'd out, she was the only one left. And she could actually rewrite her history.
Yay!
Yes. She rewrote her history as murderess of her entire genetic line.
She wound up pitching this idea to Hollywood, and they actually gave her her own show.
Yay!
Her show was on Lifetime and frequently
No, not Lifetime.
Yes, Lifetime.
Yes, this was actually a sad fate. She tried to make the best of it by driving a pink Porsche around Hollywood and dressing very scantily and attracting attention.
Madison, I'm actually going to call you there. There is no way to make a series on Lifetime a positive. You have been outmaneuvered by the finest boo of all time. And if anyone who's producing a Lifetime series is out there, call me. I'm available for casting. All right, that was an excellent game of Yay Boo, everybody. Thank you very much. Our next game is going to be a fun one. So for this next game, fine audience, please tell us in the chat. Give us many ideas of minor annoyances, little minor annoyances that happen during the day, like the hood of your cloak just kind of sliding down too far, so your black cloak casts a shadow over your eyes and you can barely see. That's a minor annoyance. That's minor. So while we're getting these minor annoyances, let me tell you what we're going to have here. You know what, audience? I'm going to surprise you once we get those minor annoyances going. So we are calling up to the stage Carol, Matt, Amy, and Ian before we even let the audience know what they're going to be doing. How's that for interesting? So come join me. There we have some great people. We have Carol, Matt, Amy, and Ian joining me. How y'all doing? Did you enjoy the Yay Boo? Excellent, excellent. So Jen, do we have quite a few minor annoyances out there?
We're still working on it, but I can tell you we have a few that I can start with. How many do you need?
We are going to need 5 total.
Great.
Do we have 5?
Yes. How
Excellent.
about?
So Miss Jennifer, I'm going to butt in for just a second because now I shall reveal to the audience, what we're going to be doing with your minor annoyance suggestions. We are going to be picking 4 of these minor annoyances to inspire the performances of our actors. You see, the original origin of Halloween was a celebration by ancient people of the harvest, that they had safely harvested their foods and their crops. And so they were thanking their gods and goddesses and non-binary deities. And then later on in the medieval times, not the dinner place, the actual time period, the Christian church turned Halloween into All Saints' Eve. So Halloween is a time when we're celebrating gods, goddesses, deities, and saints of all kinds. So, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary friends, your suggestions are going to inspire these people to be gods, goddesses, deities, and saints. I'm going to start saying deities and saints. And then Jen is going to reveal later what that last annoyance is. Because you see, as deities and saints, you often have to help people and other creatures on earth to deal with a problem. And that last minor annoyance is going to be a global problem that these deities and saints will have to work together to solve. So now, Jen, if you would please, what are some of the minor annoyances that we had?
We have milk that has expired.
Milk that has expired. So, Ian, you shall be the deity of questionable dairy products. You're the deity of questionable dairy products. What's our next suggestion, Jen?
A trash bag that breaks before it's collected.
A trash bag that breaks before it's collected. So, Carol, you shall be the deity or patron saint of things that don't make it all the way to the finish line. Let's call you a patron saint of things that don't make it all the way to the finish line. Okay, so there's a lot of people asking you for help because they want to get to the finish line. They're calling on you to help them out. Jen, what's our next suggestion?
Poison ivy.
Poison ivy. Matt, you are the deity of agriculture. I know in Greek myth that's Persephone, and so you shall now be Persephone embodied in modern day. So, Amy, what are we going to get as your modern day minor annoyance that you shall be the patron saint or deity of? Jen?
The neighbor's dog that keeps barking.
The neighbor's dog that keeps barking. Amy, you're the patron saint of intrusive things, intrusive sounds, intrusive interruptions. You are the patron saint of intrusions. All right, these wonderful saints and deities are having a little get-together, and a little bit later, their nice get-together is going to be interrupted by a world crisis. Let's see deities and saints.
Oh, Cymbeline, my crops are but wilted. Huh. My harvest will be but small.
Oh, Edgerton, I am so sorry. Would that I could help you water them, but my water pail, it has holes in it.
Did somebody say something about water? Well, it's not exactly water. It's actually gerbil milk, but I think it might work.
Giraffe, Thank you for coming in and saving this godly day.
Aye. Oh, this is what I do. You know, every once in a while you need some gerbil milk. You just milk about 1 million gerbils, and it's enough to begin with. Ah,
Excuse me, excuse me. I know it's none of my business. I know it's none of my business, but I just had to pipe in here for a moment. Good to see you all, Simile, and the rest. You seem to be kind of thirsty there. I see.
Edgerton, a bit of warning about giraffes, gerbil.
Milk! It is the milk of the gerbil.
It has putrid fumes coming from it, and I would pass out from it, but I don't think I can.
Giraffe, do tell me this ghastly scent will help my plants, for it does wilt my nose.
Well, I mean, it might do that, but you know it would work even better is if we left it out for a little while and added a little bit of black tea and made some gerbil milk kombucha out of it.
Oh, kombucha. No, kombucha will just tear you up inside. Don't believe the hype there. Listen here, if you want to get your plants a little hydrated there, I've got the perfect little seltzer water. Gives them little bubbles, gives them a little kick.
Oh, seltzer
Deity
water.
Diana, that is so lovely. I'm sorry, Giraffe, but I must
no,
have
it's
you
perfectly all right.
Attention, attention, warning, warning, there is a world crisis. There is a world crisis.
Someone should talk
World
back to
crisis of stubbing toes. World
toes.
crisis of stubbing toes.
Stubbing toes.
The grand being has sent upon us a plague beneath.
Aye, yes, that be true. What are we going to do about it, though?
My supply of band-aids is but low. I cannot be of help.
But even a lowly band-aid could help. What are you talking about? Of course you can help.
But
Listen.
I am...
I'm sorry. I was just, I don't want to overstep anything, but I'm going to overstep, actually, any obstacles. We will just retrain those toes. And I'm going to go get the toe training coaching manual right now. Okay, I know right where it is. I'll go through your medicine cabinet and get it.
I can't do anything because all of you are going to just beat me to it.
Wait, no. Cymbeline, say what you need to say. We're all here as a team of gods that support people.
Edgerton, Giraffe, should I but pray? Is that enough?
Cymbeline, remember when you cried before you were given the deity status and we all rallied around you, and then you gave that triumphant scene to the Great One, and you are now with us in our
godly abode.
Thank you.
Always feel behind everybody, and I shall do my best.
Wait, no, that's it. You should make people just a step behind where they were so they won't stub their toes as much.
Giraffe!
Crisis solved. Crisis solved. Step behind and stubbing toes.
I shall go tell deity Diana.
Oh, so we don't need to go ahead and ferment this kombucha gerbil milk and turn it into a hard substance that can protect the foot. I think the smell will really work, though. I'm going to add that to people's feet right now.
It really smells bad.
And scene. Thank you, everybody. That's what happens when deities and saints work together. We get solutions. That was awesome. There's now kind of a green film over my scene. That's exciting. Let's get to our next game. Speaking of a green film, our next game is called Lost in the Woods. Let's get up here. Jenna, Matt, Madison, and Ian. Jenna, Matt, Madison and Ian. Hi, everybody. Get you on screen for a second. Get you on screen for a second. There they are. And now, Jenna, Matt, Madison, and Ian, goodbye. Goodbye. You're going to the waiting room. Goodbye.
Oh my God.
They're going to be disappearing. Ladies and gentlemen and non-binary friends in the audience, we need to get your suggestions of a scary location. We're going to have to kind of surprise them with this scary location, but we can do it. We know about scary locations, don't we? Yes, a green screen is a scary location. Yes, and the well from The Ring is a scary location. So we need to get a scary location from our friends in the audience. Jen, do we have one? Okay, hang on just a second. Oh, I see what happens. Okay, so there we are. So we're experiencing a little bit of needing to trade people, and let's see. So what we're going to do with Lost in the Woods, let me explain how this game works. We're going to get a scary location from you. There we go. Now I can start explaining it to you. We're going to get a scary location. Jen, our moderator, is going to come back in the room. That's fine. And she's going to tell us what scary location that you've suggested for us. Here comes Jen. Jen, do you have a scary location for us? I have a scary pencil.
I'm here.
Hi. Do you have a scary location that our audience has suggested?
Yes. How about the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles?
I am so glad you did that, audience, that you understand that scary doesn't mean spooky, you know? It just means scary. So the DMV is very scary. So friends in the audience, I want you to start giving us words that are associated with the DMV. We're going to take 5 words that are associated with the DMV. So just start typing in there words associated with the DMV. And I don't mean naughty words. I mean things like, you know, things you'd see at the DMV, things you'd do at the DMV. We're going to get your individual words. These will become magic words. And when our 4 friends come back, they are going to be stuck at the DMV. They're going to be talking about the situation at the DMV. If one of them should happen to say one of these magic words, they'll be freed from the DMV. But they'll be, this being Friday the 13th, the way they'll be freed is that we will scream, die! And they will die a spectacular death, but be freed from the DMV. Now, one of these 5 words, we will pick a word that is a magical resurrection word, meaning if one of our friends at the DMV who's still alive and still in the picture happens to say this magical word, everyone comes back to life and everyone escapes the DMV with a new driver's license with a good picture. So it's a win-win-win all around. So Jen, do we have some words associated with the DMV?
There is the water fountain.
Water fountain. Okay, not so sure that's necessarily a DMV. Let's keep going. That might work out. Let's see.
Glass divider.
I think our audience is being a little literal minded. Audience, I appreciate that you help us out. We're not here without you. Audience, can you help us with things at the DMV that would only be at the DMV? Like maybe the eye chart. Let's make eye chart one of our suggestions. So things that really just scream DMV. Okay? So with that in mind, Jen, are we starting to see some things that are maybe more specifically to the DMV?
Driver's license application.
Okay, that's a good one. So we've got 2 so far. We got eye chart, we got driver's license application. What else do we see?
The photo for the
photo,
driver's
yes.
license.
Sorry?
The photo for the driver's license.
Yep. My mom and I were there just a couple of weeks ago. You have to stand and get a photo. Yep. Let's get 2 more.
The waiting area.
The waiting area, which, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary friends, that is a ring of hell. Let me tell you. Let's get 1 more.
The bathroom that is not very sanitary.
That will be our resurrection word, because that's going to be a little tougher to guess. So our 4 words that will allow them their freedom through a spectacular death will be eye chart, driver's license application, or anything that sounds like driver's license application, photo or camera or anything like photo, waiting area, and then the resurrection word, if any of them should happen to say bathroom, they will all be saved. Chris, let's get our friends back. And friends, let's get you on screen if you're coming back. That's going to be Jenna, Matt, Madison, and Ian. There you are. The scary location they came up with for you is the scariest location imaginable. You are at the DMV.
No!
Yes!
Why?
Frickin' yes. All right, take it away. You are lost at the DMV.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Am I standing in the right line? Is this the right line?
My ticket is B52. I don't see that anywhere on the screen.
Is this the right line?
So, like, I shouldn't have eaten this gum under my chair here, is what you're saying, Steven.
I have a driver's test to take today. It's very important.
Die!
Hi.
Oh my God. The driver teacher's got a sharp clipboard. I had no idea.
Oh.
Are they going to make me read those letters again on that iBoard?
Die!
Oh!
I don't know, Carol. All I know. Carol. I guess
I think this is a bad DMV. Everyone keeps dying in the middle of the DMV. I'm just standing in line here, waiting for, I don't know, like trying to get a photo taken.
Die!
Hi.
Hey, wait. What's going on with this photo? It's
You know what? I'm really glad about this because that means there are fewer people waiting in line.
Die!
Hi.
Still, I cannot wait any longer. I'm so tired and thirsty. I just need a cookie.
Damn, our people are good. They got those 4 words like that. Marvelous. Thank you. Thank you, viewers. I want to thank you for coming through with those very specific suggestions that our team nailed. That was great teamwork between audience and players. I really appreciate it. Uh-oh, I think I froze. Oh, I'm back. I'm kind of freezy. Okay. Excellent. Our next game is going to be Campfire Stories. Now, it just wouldn't be some spooky Friday the 13th without people sitting around a campfire telling spooky stories. So for this one, let's get up here Carol, Jenna, and Amy. Carol, Jenna, and Amy. Now, oops, I forgot to ask our wonderful audience. What is something that you would say or see at the farmer's market? Something that you would say or see at a grocery store? So just kind of ordinary things you'd say or see at the grocery store or farmer's market. But you know what's going to happen? There's going to be some alchemy here, which is very spooky. Our players, they will be sitting around a campfire. We're going to learn more about their campfire. They're going to tell us because they're improvisers. They'll make it all up. When they are in the middle of telling their spooky stories, they, one by one, different times, whenever, at some point they are going to need help for what the next line is. And they will lean forward into their camera like this. And our moderator, Jen, will take one of your suggestions, audience, yes, yours, of things that you would say or do at a farmer's market or grocery store, she will put it in the secret chat that our players will see, and they will incorporate that into their ghost story or vampire story. I don't know, it's a scary story. It could be a story about the DMV again. I don't know. They're improvisers. And they will have to justify how your line fits into their story. It's fantastic. We'll laugh, we'll scream. It'll be great. Jen, are we getting some ideas of things that you would say or see at a farmer's market or grocery store?
Yes, what do you want me to say them, or are you going to cue them?
When our players come forward like this into their camera, that will be your cue, Jen, to paste it into our super secret chat, from the Twitch chat to our super secret chat, so our players up close to the screen can read it and say it. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Excellent. Players, let's get started with campfire stories. Begin.
I'm gonna tell the first story that I ever was told, and it really scared me so bad, but I'm gonna tell it to you two because you're my best friends.
Go for it, Beth Ann. I'm so scared already.
Once upon a time, there was a really mean lunch lady. And the lunch lady was very notorious because she didn't like her job at all, and she definitely didn't like the children at the school that she worked at. And there was one child in particular named Billy. Oh, Billy was a girl, by the way. Billy was a boy. But that, anyway, he was very notorious, as I previously said, for always holding a sharp knife. And she would sometimes show it to the kids in front of her, and she would say,
What did she say?
She would always say the same thing over and over again. And it would scare everybody.
Say it!
She would always say, is honey made from sustainable bees?
Samantha, you can't just go talking about bees like that. You know I'm allergic.
And Billy was the brave one. And Billy would always...
What made her brave? What made her brave?
Because Billy's mom was the beekeeper. And so Billy would always say, of course, yes, honey is made from sustainable bees, and you don't need to hate us children. And then she would always look at that lunch lady and say, I wish that you would just put the honey on my fried chicken. And I swear it's the scariest thing I've ever in my life heard. She's very notorious, as I said.
I don't believe that one bit because no one put sustainable honey and waste it on fried chicken. That's something you want to like save for a good cup of tea.
You know, I'm not scared. I'm not scared because my mom always told me that she just said to me, squeeze the tomatoes, you know? So like when you have terrifying, unsustainable honey, you just squeeze the tomatoes, right? Because then your hands look like they're covered in blood. And when your hands look like they're covered in blood, everyone is scared of you.
Ew.
That's what you should have done.
Margaret, you can't just talk about squeezing tomatoes like that. That is cruelty to vegetables and produce in general. I'll tell you what this reminds me of. It reminds me of my own experiences with the lunch lady. And I went and it was like pizza day, and I was so excited that it was going to be my favorite pizza. And I leaned up close with my tray, and I went to lunch lady, and I said, "The floor is very slippery right here. Can someone clean that up?"
Oh my god!
Because someone had dropped a whole tray of pizzas on the floor, and even though like the crust was cardboard, it still made everyone slip and slide. And
Did they die? Did they die?
They got wildly maimed. It was terrible.
Everyone in the lunchroom died? That's horrible. But you know, it's not as horrible as with the time that I said well, I'll tell you. I don't know what I said. I remember now. I was there, and I said, last time I was here, there was a fire eater. And a fire eater could have prevented this tragedy, this smattering of dead bodies around us, because a fire eater would have burnt up the slippery sauce on the floor. He would have just caught it all on fire. And then well, people probably would have burned anyway, but it would have been more fun.
Oh my god, fire eaters are the best too, because like they make s'mores in their own mouths. It's the most amazing thing. It's like what I heard about the fire eaters too is that they're just what I heard about the fire eaters was they were looking for yeast. They would come around and ask everyone, "Do you have any yeast?" Because they just want to make sourdough. They're cooped up like the rest of us, and they just want to make sourdough starters.
Sourdough. This story this is really getting out of hand, and I'm almost thinking that we should stop telling these stories, because the more that we talk, the scarier things get. But before we totally stop, there's just one more thing that I almost wanted to just. I wasn't gonna say it, but now I feel like
get it off your chest. Get it off your chest. We know you've been wanting to confess this.
Okay, but I don't want either of you to get angry at me. But there was one more thing that I remembered, and I was told this, and I was sworn to secrecy, but it's because you two are my best friends.
Pinky swear.
Pinky swear, but you know, I mean, I swear, you know, I mean, this is Mom. I want a Tonka truck! And that doesn't make me a bad person, because there's someone fun to play with. That's all.
You always swore to me that I was the only friend that wanted Tonka trunks in our group.
No, I wanted that too! And I think Katie did too, didn't you, Katie?
I would have shared with you!
Tonka truck! You guys, I think we gotta go to sleep now. What do you think?
Okay. You guys are the best.
You wanna hold my Tonka truck?
Tonka truck. Tonka trucks. And that is Campfire Stories. Thank you very much, everybody. Those are some spooky stories with your suggestions, our wonderful audience. Spooky when you can't speak correctly. So our next game is one called Saturn Award Winning Moment. And for this game, we are going to have Madison, Matt, and Ian get up here. Friends in the audience, we would like you to give us suggestions of a safe, mundane, ordinary activity. Just something real regular you would do, you know, like doing the laundry. So something real ordinary, mundane. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about the Saturn Awards if you've never seen them or don't know about them. They are a August group, not in August, but it's an August group. And they give awards to film and TV shows that are in the genres of science fiction, fantasy, or horror. And so we are going to be seeing a scene from these three fine improvisers. That will just be a regular scene. And at certain points, I shall call the name of one of our improvisers and tell them this is their Saturn Award winning moment. In other words, this is the moment when their monologue, when their soliloquy, when their song, when their dance, when their space work, when their whatever is so moving and thrilling and scary and whatever, when their science fiction scene, horror scene, or fantasy scene is so wonderful, they get an award. And then when that scene is over, we're going to go right back to the original scene. So we're going to see a regular scene interrupted by moments of high, big science fiction, fantasy, or horror. So players, get on up here. I see you have your cameras on. Are you ready to play Saturn Award-winning moment? Jen, can you tell us what mundane, safe activity our audience has suggested for these people?
Yes, mowing the lawn.
That's not safe.
It's not safe, but it is mundane. All right, you have your work cut out for you. Get it? It's a joke, but anyway.
So you did there.
Mowing the lawn, Saturn Award-winning moment, begin.
Hey, Mom and Dad, I finished mowing the lawn.
You finished that, son?
All done. All but done, Pops.
Hold your horses here, son. You don't just get to walk away and just tell us that you've mowed
I'm heading
the lawn.
out, Dad. I was just heading out.
Hey, what did I tell you? What did I tell you?
Make sure everything's complete and that the lids are on the trash cans and that they're pulled in behind the gate.
And what did your mother tell you?
I told him not to play in a cemetery. Where do you think you're going? I told you not to go out the front gate.
Oh, my friends are at the cemetery, Mom.
Kids these days
do
in their
you
cemetery.
not
from everything?
Do you not listen? Do you know what kind of things can go on in there?
I'm gonna pack up and I'm gonna come back.
That's all the kids want to do these days is hang around in cemeteries, talk about death and existential crises. In my day, we played football.
Ian, Saturn Award-winning moment.
In my day, we played football. Out there on the fields of Rohan, with our horses in hand, and our mighty swords there. We would destroy thousands of goblins while playing our football. And I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you this. Those goblins remembered that we were warriors!
Back to scene.
Ian, this is all your fault. You have tried to create this son of yours to go off on his own in these fantasy ideas in the cemetery.
It's not a fantasy to play football. Not with goblin heads. Against the armies of Sauron.
Dad, I play football,
fantasy, Margaret.
I play football, but it's virtual football on my 5G phone. It's a new program where the characters are free.
Matt, Saturn Award-winning moment.
It's football in 4025. The players are holograms, and they're made of Greek gods, more powerful than Zeus, Hercules, Samson, or soliloquy. The games are so violent that it makes modern day my father's football look like a ballet dance concerto. The football is so gruesome that the fans in the stands can hardly watch and turn their heads around because it's so grotesque. If my father only knew.
Back to scene.
You know, if I had only had my way to send you to a proper school to get everything sorted out so that you didn't live in this fantasy world.
What was that,
Madison, Mom? Madison, Saturn Award-winning moment.
understand. I don't understand what's happening. I only wanted the best. I only wanted to have a family. And I feel like everybody's changing. Everybody's changing in front of me. They're becoming like figments of my imagination. And it's only me. I'm the only one who's left that understands reality. I don't want to live here anymore. I don't want to be in this family. No.
Back to scene.
Rohan! Margaret, I'm sorry. I just wanted to come in and say that, I have been fantasizing a lot, and, I'm going to set these swords down, these football swords, and I'm going to be here with you. Because I love you, Margaret. And I love our son, even though he doesn't play football, and he just wants to hang out in cemeteries.
Dear Mom and Dad, you won't be seeing me for some time. I've packed and left, and I'd like to thank you, but I can't. You might get a postcard with a non-addresser name. It might be me. I don't know.
And scene. That turned into quite the epic. My goodness. Children in cemeteries, which actually I used to hang out in the cemetery during high school because it was real close to our high school, and it was quiet. I could actually eat my Burger King in peace, That was pretty awesome. Saturn Award-winning moments. You all deserve those awards. Our second to last game, we are going to have an expert panel. We are going to see Carol, Matt, and Amy. And Jenna. Jenna, come on camera for just 1 second. Miss Jenna. Goodbye, Jenna. You're going to the waiting room. See you later. Bye. Because, ladies and gentlemen, now that Jenna's... Oh, she's not gone yet. We're sending Jenna... There she goes. Now that Jenna's gone, fine audience, we need your suggestions of celebrities who are not in trouble, in other words, celebrities who are okay people, or fictional characters, because we're going to play a little game of expert panel. Now, we are going to endow each of our experts here with the personalities of one of the either celebrities or fictional characters you suggest to us. They will answer your questions, which we also want to hear from you, audience. What are things you want advice about? They will be answering and giving advice from the viewpoint of that character you've endowed them with. But shh, Jenna's not going to know who they've been endowed with. And after they've answered a few questions and given some advice, Jenna's going to have to guess who they are. And we're going to have a good time. It's going to be fun. So, Jen, do we have some celebrities who are not in trouble or some fictional characters we can endow these fantastic players with? Carol, Matt, and Amy.
We have the character of Lorelai Gilmore.
Lorelai Gilmore. Okay. I'm seeing Carol nodding. Are you Gilmore Girls? You?
Oh wait! No. Sorry, I don't know her. Sorry, Amy. Do you know her?
No.
I've never seen Gilmore.
Next.
Friend.
Sorry.
Next.
Wrong Lorelai.
Wrong Lorelai. I know. We were thinking Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Lorelai. 10-4. Jen, do we have some more characters or celebrities?
Queen Elizabeth II.
So QE2. Matt, I'd like you to be QE2. So things from the viewpoint of Queen Elizabeth II. Think of things that are things of Queen Elizabeth II. Who's next, Miss Jen?
Mikhail Baryshnikov.
Mikhail Baryshnikov. Misha. Okay. Who would like to be Misha? I believe I shall be making Amy Misha. I saw you move your hand first. I'm not speaking in Mikhail's accent. He actually has a different accent. I'm more from the east side of Russia. Jen, who is our third person that we will endow Carol with?
The late, great Christopher Plummer.
The late, great Christopher Plummer. That is a bit of a tricky one. A fantastic actor. Like 70 years of acting. Millions of roles. Probably just known as the...
Trapp.
As Mr. Von Trapp. Colonel Von Trapp. Tell you what. Are you ready to take on Colonel Von Trapp?
Captain Von Trapp.
Captain Von Trapp, I have given you field promotion. Congratulations.
I will give it.
Now,
I will
get over those Alps with those children. Okay, so we have our three people. We have Queen Elizabeth II. We have Mikhail Baryshnikov. And we have Christopher Plummer, in particular, in his role as Captain Von Trapp. You can see I'm not a Sound of Music person. I went to the sing-along. It was fun. I wasn't paying attention.
I love that you said Colonel. That actually warmed my heart, but it's Captain.
I did. You know, I tell you what gets me is the Sound of Music. She's 16 going on 17. No, not okay. All right, let's bring back Jenna. Let's stop chatting and bring back Jenna. Ay. Let's bring back Jenna. There's Jenna. And take it away with your show, Jenna.
Hello, all, and welcome to Late Night Advice with Starflower. As children of the stars, I thank you for joining me at ASU's premier 3 a.m. advice television show. Today I have for you 3 people who really need no introduction, as you may guess. Now, I would just love to hear what advice, let's just get right into the advice that they can give you and what your heart needs in your life. Now, Jen, please tell me, what is the first piece of question that we have from our studio audience as to what deep questions they can have answered?
The question is, how do you balance your checkbook?
Yes, please. This is so important. How do you balance your checkbook? Please, each of you.
Well, I will say that balancing the checkbook or the ducats is of most significance, for the beheading behind yonder wall will take place by my command for those who is in debt and has not paid to my kingdom.
Yes. There are different consequences for not balancing your checkbooks in some places than others, that is certain. Now, who's next?
Oh, yes, very important to balance all the time. Let me give you my first position. My first position is always on point. So you need to balance checkbook, because what is coming in must be going out equally or less. Never more. Never more. I have 4 more positions if you're interested. But they're passe.
Deep. That is too interesting. Now, please, our final guest.
In a career as expansive as mine, I hate to be relegated to just one when it comes to answering banking, but what I would do, I'd grab a whistle and I'd have them line it up, the money, sequentially.
Yes. That is really what you need to do. You know, I admire your expansive career. That is important. Now, please, what is? I can sense that we have another. That my vibes tell me we have another studio audience member with a good question. Could I please get another one?
Yes, the question is, should I water my houseplants more often?
Houseplants. Yes, the spirits also, you can tell, would like to have this answered. Now, please, with no further ado, tell our desperate audience member, should they water their houseplants more often?
If you're not gonna water them. You can always sing to them, particularly if you happen to own, I don't know, Edelweiss.
Yes. Yes, that's very true. Yes, and especially if you perhaps took your curtains and turned them into clothing, then you would have more sunlight coming in your windows. Just a side thought I had. Now, please, who else has a good answer for us?
I would like to find my chariot. I would like to be carried back into my kingdom. I once had a servant that watered the plants and called me Lizzie, and losing of her head did she that very day.
No. Oh dear, that is. Oh, I don't know if I can condone that, but to each their own. I will allow each their own. Now, next, please.
Yes, yes. It is very important to water your plants, but also important is the source of the water. For my water, I go straight to the bar and spend a lot of time at the bar
Yes,
to get my water.
you would as a ballerina. However, I do not know. Yes. Now,
Star Child, last question.
Yes. Yes, the vibes are telling me. We have one more question. Yes, thank you, vibes. All right, we're very excited, vibes. Now, please, be quiet, vibes, so we can have our last question.
Yes, the question is, should I be eating insects if I need to increase my protein?
I've often pondered this same question, listener. I am desperate to know what our guests have to say. So please tell me. Tell us.
Surely us in the court would never stoop to such low, but some of the peasants do find the insects as a source of nutrition, of which I care not, as long as it is done outside of my castle walls that I do command upon.
Why, yes, Queen Elizabeth. I do believe that is important for you, I suppose. Now,
Hand me your hand.
Oh, yes, of course, here. Yes, oh, it is such a pleasure to see you here. And your advice, I mean, oh, beautiful. Now, please, next, who else can give us good advice?
Yes, I will speak. Apparently, my voice was a little too high pitched before. But the insects are an excellent source of protein. I actually hunt my own insects. I go out in the white nights and pick up the insects by their hind quarters.
But you also do ballet.
I do.
Are you a ballerina that is
No.
No.
You are misgendering me.
Ballerino. Oh, I'm so sorry. Ballerino. Yes, I don't even know if that's the correct term. A ballet dancer. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I do hope you have a specific name. However, I literally do not know the names of any male ballet dancers.
I recognize you. You were on that show Sex in the City in the very last season, weren't you?
Indeed I was. I hope you didn't miss me.
Oh, unfortunately, I was in a meditation retreat for the entirety of Sex in the City run.
Perhaps you could lend me 5 cents. That one single coin that is 5 cents. Because that kind of sounds like my first name.
Yes, your name is Nick, if I recall. Is it not? Nicholas?
No.
Nico! Nico!
We got to do a mic check. A mic check for a moment. A mic check on the 5 cent coin. So that kind of combined.
Your
consult
vodka.
schmoosh. Ah, thank you.
Vodka?
What the?
You know, this is some crazy Misha gas here.
Misha? Your name is Misha, of course. Misha choking.
I would say Michael in America.
I can't bear this.
Michael vodka.
That vodka came right from the bar. A little
Paging
bar. It's a
mission.
little barish vodka.
Paging Mikhail Baryshnikov. Paging Mikhail Baryshnikov.
Oh, that is me.
Telephone
That is
call
me.
for
Baryshnikov. Oh, thank you, Mikhail Baryshnikov. It is such an honor to have you here.
Yes.
With all of your knowledge, with all of the knowledge you've obtained from the many things you have done in this life that everyone knows and honors.
Things going down.
Yes.
The only
No,
thing that I will contribute for me is that, like Mikhail, I'm also a man, and my daughter Amanda is a splendid actress, was in the movie Pulp Fiction, and had a famous line at the top of the movie. Perhaps you remember it. I also had a phenomenal run playing Lionel Barrymore in live theater.
Now, I always had a crush on Captain Von Trapp.
Oh.
Which I believe was your title role. However, Christopher Plummer, I enjoy meeting you more.
As do I.
Yes, everyone should. Oh.
And that is a wonderful way to wrap up our expert panel with these three fabulous people. You know, it takes a village to get Mikhail Baryshnikov. That's what they say in Russia all the time. It's just this old Belarusian, Ukrainian saying that's just there. Audience friends, friends in the room, let's all come back. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I want to thank our moderator, Jen, who just did everything. Jennifer just got us a million suggestions. Chris Dion, our technical improviser, who was sending people away and bringing them back and putting them on screen. It's fantastic. Let's thank this wonderful cast. We've got Matt, Carol, Amy, Jenna, Madison, and Ian. We'll see you next week, friends. I can't even think of who our guest host is supposed to be, but it's going to be someone awesome. Thank you. Good night. Boo, Friday the 13th. The way the expert panel, they were in disguises because you dress up as someone else on Halloween.